Hello, I'm Simon Clarke. I'm CEO of American Lithium. We are a lithium development company with assets in Nevada, Peru, and we also own the world's fifth largest undeveloped uranium asset called Macusani.
How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome
good.
to London.
Good to be here in person.
You're back home to your roots, aren't you? We're getting English, Scottish. What are we getting today?
Scottish always. Yeah.
Okay. You're at the conference. How's things going over there?
Great to be back in person. It's not back to maybe full steam, but it's pretty good. It's well attended, and there's a real good buzz around the place.
And he's sort of saying, is there a retail family office, institutions?
Family offices, a few funds, some bankers. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's good to get back in
the
saddle.
What do they want out of you? Look, come on. First, I've got to say this. $1 billion company, right?
$1 billion company.
Big shot.
Yeah. I wouldn't quite say that.
I'm kidding. No, it's $1 billion company, but there's a sort of expectation on you when you reach those sorts of dizzy heights from the institutional guys and others as to how you continue this growth story, right? There's a bit of pressure on you now.
Absolutely.
That's the truth.
There's definitely pressure, but I think it's fortunate. Obviously, the sector's had a great run.
Yeah.
I think people are starting to recognize the potential of the assets we picked up when we acquired Plateau. There's no doubt that I think our timing on that was really good. And, I think Falchani as a lithium deposit was really unknown and undervalued. It's a high grade at surface. I was actually in Peru a month ago first time I was able to go and kick the tires, but it's an exceptional asset, really strong team down there. And then, uranium's obviously had a good run, and the fact that we also control Macusani, I think is becoming more and more known.
You said something there which kind of resonated with me, which is you're getting recognition for the deal that you did with Plateau, right?
Yes.
As in Peru, had been difficult elections and socialist conversations in the press, etc. But the reality is that you picked up quite a good deal at quite a good price. Didn't get the recognition for a long time, and all of a sudden something's changed. What is it?
Well, I think part of it is the sector, because when we made the acquisition, we were in discussions late last year. It's the bottom of the cycle. I think LCE was 6,500 a ton. It's now 25,000. That helps. And then there was a run up early this year, and then we made the acquisition as it was consolidating. So I think over the summer it was pretty quiet. And we were able to just bed things down, really start to get the Peruvian team also involved in what we're doing in Nevada.
Yeah.
And then the sector obviously has really come back strongly. And we got out, started to tell the story, raise some money.
Investing is also about timing.
Yep.
If you get the thesis right, the timing will come.
Yeah,
and that seems to be what's happening here, right? It's happening obviously in lithium.
Yeah,
but uranium too.
Yes.
But what are you? A lithium uranium story, or are you a lithium story? I mean, what are you?
We're a lithium story with a really nice uranium asset,
right?
And an asset that we've made clear that we're not going to let it go. I mean, we've had people offering us, to take it off our hands and wanting to do things with it, and our view is it's too early, and there's some near-term stuff we can do to strengthen the value more, whilst the sector continues to get stronger in our view. So we will do something with it. We are a lithium story, but Lawrence and Ted built that asset over 15 years, so it's a 15-year overnight success story, if you like.
They're the best.
And well, to my mind, they have to be involved in whatever vehicle it goes. I mean, we're not going to lose them on the lithium side.
Yeah.
But they can go on the board. We put it in its own vehicle, and then raise money for it. And it's an independent company that we retain a decent stake.
Right. So again, timing is going to be important on that.
Yeah.
I mean, has had a good run this year, but I think there's a ways to go. Are you under any pressure to do that sooner rather than later?
No, we're really not. We can choose our timing on it. And again, it's a great asset. I was there a month ago, so it's the first time I saw it. And the relationships and the community support we have there, it's a real testament to Lawrence and those guys. So that's always a critical element that you don't want to lose. So we're just focused on what is the right way to package it up that's going to maximize benefit for us and our shareholders, but also give it the opportunity to really, get the right valuation in the market in a pure play uranium vehicle.
So how do you approach something like that, right? I get the spin out, and I think they're allowing you to have a pure play lithium story, easier people to understand with scale. Nice.
Yeah.
But you've got people lined up wanting to take it off your hands, and we're seeing all sorts of players out there from different backgrounds, experience, skill sets, access, capital and capital markets. Have you got in your mind the sort of group that you would prefer? Because you can make a quick buck.
Yeah.
Or you can work with someone who can build this thing out into something more meaningful. So where's your head at?
Yeah, we want to see it built out into something meaningful. I mean, I think this, on size-wise, it's the 5th largest undeveloped one. But I think the other point people miss with Macusani is the only place in the world that you can actually, operate cheaper is Kazakhstan. I mean, the cost of recovery at Macusani in the PEA was $17 a pound. It's a great cost base, and that's out of date. We think those numbers get better still. Okay. So, we want to make sure it's a quality team. And we don't want to lose the relationships and the knowledge that Ted and Lawrence have. I think that will be key to also really driving value. And obviously, as American Lithium, we want to keep a decent stake, and we want to make sure our shareholders all benefit from it as well. Okay,
so there's a kind of upside kicker for your shareholders at the point you decide to spin that out. Okay, that's nice. You are will then be a pure play lithium story. So better talk lithium a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll stick with Peru though. In terms of what's happening on the ground?
Well, as you know, we have our own rigs down there. So we have all of the permits in place to start drilling. All we were waiting for is the final sign-off in Lima. The key to anything in Peru is community support. So we have all of our community agreements there. We have our camp in the communities. They support the camp. They support what we're doing on the ground. It's a great scenario, so much so that when I was in Peru, the community leaders from those 6 communities flew to Lima and met with the president and said, we want you to do everything you can to help us advance lithium in this area. So it's nice in this time that you have such strong community support for what you're doing, and it's critical in Peru.
Is that partly because of COVID and the impact it's had financially in some of these communities, or is it really a bit more than that?
No, COVID's definitely had a big factor, but I mean, Puno, where the projects are, historically, one of the poorer areas of Peru. I mean, they've got huge potential. Yeah. But I mean, a lot of the communities around there are, focused on farming. Yeah. And they're very commercially savvy. They know the value of lithium. Right. And they also like the environmental side of it. That sounds a bit trite to say, but there's a real focus now that they could build a lithium industry in Peru based on these assets. So, yes, the nice thing about Falchani as well, you end up with a very pure, refined product that can go straight to a cathode plant or a battery plant. So, what do you do with that? Do you build some infrastructure locally? I mean, that's, I think, what a lot of the locals would like to see happen.
Yeah, I bet they would, but you have commercial and economic decisions to make,
for sure.
and that's a ways down the line, I guess. So what's actually happening on the ground in terms of money being spent?
Yeah. So we are about to launch the next phase of drilling. So at Falchani, we want to do some infill and some extension drilling, and then we want to update the PEA for that work. We want to move a lot of the inferred category up to measured and indicated. Okay. And we also want to bring in cesium and potash, which are 2 very strong byproducts, which were never in the last PEA. So if you look at the global cost curve, Falchani would be probably at the top of the first quartile. So very strong on a cost basis, but we believe it can be stronger still. And then if we move the bulk of that asset to M&I, we can then very quickly move into feasibility, because that will then be what provides us with the reserves we need.
So how do you play this? Because we've seen so much M&A this year, right? We've seen the Chinese piling in, making bids left, right, and centre. We've seen a few counters coming from elsewhere as well. Because you've got a nice sizable project in the US too, and geographically well positioned, and that you say that a lot. But with two assets, you can't both be your favorite child.
Well, it's yes, and that's a great point. But I mean, we are at the stage where in TLC, we're close on the PA side of things. We will deliver a maiden PA by the end of Q1. And at the same time, we can restate the PA and do the work in Peru. I mean, we have a healthy balance sheet. We have the team that can do both. And then as we move from there, I would say Falchani is obviously further ahead in the development cycle. And the one issue that you have in the US is how long does it take to permit? So once you're through PA, how quickly can you move that project into feasibility? So if I'm a betting man, I would think we can get Falchani into feasibility first.
Okay.
However, there's also lots of moves in the States, as you know, to help the permitting side of things move faster. And we're looking at a number of options that would allow us to do the pilot work necessary in a lab environment or in another way that we could short circuit the permitting.
You say that. You say that about the States. I don't know. I don't know from state to state whether they say we want it, but not in our backyard.
Yeah.
We want to go green, but we don't want everything that it involves. So I don't know. So how are things in the States?
Like Nevada is the best state in the States, and the States is a wonderful mining jurisdiction once you have a mine built and you're in production.
Right.
The issue with the States is getting permitted, getting through the process, and building these mines.
Right.
So they're at the stage where they're so far behind China and they have to bring on domestic supplies that there's a big, sea change, if you like, where they're very much talking about bringing in funding, bringing in rules to help short circuit the permitting, but it hasn't happened yet. So that's why I say for us, we love all that, and we think we're really well positioned to be, the best of breed from an environmental perspective, which will help us through the permitting process. But, we still have to see that actually start to impact the permitting process. It's taken us a year to permit the next phase of drilling.
Look, I've no doubt it'll happen, but the pace at which it moves is quite slow in the States.
Yes.
And we are starting to see political language and narrative has changed, and it is a bit more pro-mining, especially for this green economy, which is great, but it's not translating into movement on the ground, which makes me think Plateau was a much better acquisition than people realized.
Yeah, I mean, for us,
and they were hampered, they were frozen, they're financially tight, they were struggling.
Yeah,
you came in, did them a favor, but I think it's done you a huge favor too.
Yeah, it has. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have a lot of faith that TLC will move forward. We'll get into production. I mean, because of where it is, we don't have a number of the environmental issues that some of the other projects have.
Yeah.
But Peru gives us that extra element. It gives us that diversity. Yes, there's been political change, and some people look at Peru and think there's some jurisdictional risk. But it's a great asset. Well, both are great assets. It's a jurisdiction that mining is such an important part, and we are seeing a lot of support for the development of lithium, in particular, from the current government, from the opposition parties, from Parliament itself. So I think it was a great move to diversify. Bring in, and that's not just from a jurisdictional perspective. I mean, some people still say, well, the claystones, until you actually have some of these projects in production, are a little bit unproven.
Yeah.
So you bring in a hard rock as well from a mineralization perspective, and in a very pure form.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great mix.
Well, that's where we start, and I'm very conscious that you've got to dash back and meet a private investor.
Yeah.
But I want to get one more thing out of you, which was, and you were sort of leading there, which was not only that diversification in terms of jurisdiction and also the technical aspects of it, of the ore body, but also the technical team that you've brought in to advance things at TLC. Because how are they getting on?
They're better than I could have imagined. When you buy something or merge something, there's always teething troubles and it always takes time. But I would say the mix of personalities has been really good. I mean, and we have some real characters, as you know.
You do.
But they're just working really well together.
The characters with substance. I give you
absolutely.
That, right? So.
And they've added a lot of value, and it's clear to the guys, in Nevada, the strengths. Lawrence and Ted and that team took a really unique style of mineralization to one of the purest battery grade projects out there. And, they are coming in and they're doing some great work at TLC. I mean, a lot of the work we were doing was outsourced to labs. We had contractors helping us. A lot of that skill set is now very much in-house. And we're using labs in Peru that, really, they're first rate. They move quickly, so it's really helped us accelerate everything we're doing in Nevada on the met side.
Good man. Simon, you've got a dash.
Thank you
Lovely
very much.
Lovely to see you over here physically and be shaking your hand.
And well done, Ireland beating the All Blacks. That was outstanding.
It was never in doubt.